Like if you found the video valuable. The train always passed through Meadowridge at 7:04 a.m., its whistle piercing the sleepy hum of the town. For Clara Dawson, that whistle was the first note in a familiar symphony, the beginning of her morning ritual. She'd sit by the bakery window with her tea and sketchpad, drawing the same field she had drawn for years, the one just beyond the station where the wildflowers grew tall and careless. Clara wasn't from Meadowridge originally. She had stumbled upon it 5 years ago, a brief stop on a train ride that was meant to take her to a job in the city. But when the train delayed overnight, she wandered into town, and something made her stay. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe the way the air smelled of flower and daisies. Or maybe, just maybe, it was him. Elliot Marin ran the tiny second-hand bookstore across from the bakery. He wasn't the kind of man who stood out in a crowd, tall, a bit awkward, with a warm voice and a peculiar habit of quoting poetry when he was nervous. Clara had first seen him the day after she arrived, setting out a box of books labeled, "Lonely but worth it." She had laughed, he had blushed, and just like that, they had become something undefined but undeniable. For years, their rhythm stayed the same. Mornings started with coffee and shared silence. He'd read, she'd sketch. Sometimes, they talked, sometimes, they didn't, but every Sunday, without fail, they would meet in the field of wildflowers, just as the sun began to lean westward. No grand declarations, no confessions, just two people who fit. But time, as it tends to, stirred change. That spring, Clara received an invitation, an art residency in Florence. Prestigious, career-changing, and completely unexpected. For days, she didn't tell anyone. Not even Elliot. She wandered Meadowridge like a ghost, torn between the life she had built in quiet corners and the life that waited in museum halls and city lights. On the final Sunday before her decision was due, Clara walked to the field earlier than usual. The air was thick with the scent of lavender and coming rain. She sat among the wildflowers, fingers twitching nervously against her sketchpad. She didn't hear Elliot approach until he sat beside her. "You're early," he said gently. She nodded. Couldn't wait. He didn't ask why. He never pushed. That was Elliot, solid and safe, never demanding what someone wasn't ready to give. After a long silence, she blurted, "I got accepted into a residency. In Italy." Elliot blinked, digesting the words slowly. "That's incredible." "It is. You're going?" "I don't know." He looked out over the flowers, the wind lifting his hair like fingers from another world. "You've always drawn this field," he said. "But maybe you were meant to draw more." "I don't want to leave this," she said, voice cracking. "I don't want to leave you." Elliot reached into his coat and pulled out a folded piece of parchment. "I wrote you something," he said shyly. "Didn't know if I'd ever give it to you." Clara unfolded the note. A poem. Simple, honest, like him. It read, "If I were a wildflower, I'd bloom in your hands, take root in your presence, grow where you stand. But flowers, too, must brave the wind, to know the strength they hold within. Go, if you must. But know this true, this field will always wait for you." Tears welled in her eyes. "You're letting me go." "I'm not letting you go," he said softly. "I'm loving you enough not to ask you to stay." Clara left Meadowridge 2 weeks later. The town, the bakery, and the boy with poetry in his soul became part of her every painting. In Florence, she painted fields that never quite looked like the one she left behind. A year passed. Letters flew like birds between them, full of longing, sketches, bookstore mishaps, and the occasional poem. And though the ache of distance was real, so was the faith that some things wait. On the anniversary of her departure, Clara returned to Meadowridge without warning. The morning train pulled in at 7:04 a.m. The field, golden and blooming, still stood proud. And across it, Elliot stood waiting, one hand holding a new poem, the other open, ready to hold hers. And just like that, the sketch became real.